First of all, I want to thank you for being here with us this evening. Well, with us, no, I'm not here, but I want to explain some of that for you. I'm really torn that I'm not with you guys this evening. I love being at these events. I love shaking hands and thanking people personally for what they do to help scouting and help so many boys. But the reason I'm not here is because, well, as you can tell, I'm dressed for a different occasion. This week I'm at the Outpost. It's the newest high adventure base that our council has out on Kentucky Lake as part of the summer camp program for kids. I made that commitment last year that I would do it for our boys because our boys have wanted something like this for such a long time. As just the way things worked out, there was a conflict, and so I had to decide, am I going to be with the boys or am I going to be with the grown-ups? And finally I decided that the most important thing is the boys, so that's where I'm at. I hope you guys enjoy your air-conditioned dinner this evening. If I remember correctly, our schedule on Thursday night calls for being out with the mosquitoes and the flies, and we'll be eating out of tin pie pans and vegetable cans as drinking glasses. Sort of Spartan, but that's what the boys are looking for, as we're so many miles away from home at Camp Royce, Manchester. The reason we're here tonight is to raise funds to help the scouting program. Our goal is to help all these kids. I just want to make sure that everyone understands what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. So many people think of scouting as that camping program for kids. It's the Camping Club of America. It's where boys just go to the woods and run crazy. There's a lot more to it than that. Our mission is to instill the values of the Scout Oath and Scout Law in youth so that they make ethical and moral choices throughout their lifetime. We want every boy to grow up to think that he's supposed to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. I've never seen a mother who was upset that that was the description given of her son. I've always seen parents think that's what they want the description of that young man who knocks on the door to take their daughter out on her date to be. So that's what we're really here for. It's a sad fact, but it takes money to make all this stuff work. That's the gasoline for the engine that it takes, and it's desperately needed. A couple of years ago, the Tecumseh District, which we're in the heart of here in Madisonville, had been without a district executive for some time. It was all a matter of money. We just didn't have the money to put that spark plug there. At the end of 2009, we had 59 Boy Scouts on the roll. Then I got the assignment, I was handed it and said, you know what, I'm gonna make some stuff happen. Maybe more than what was necessary, but something that was necessary was the fact that every boy needed his opportunity to join. I was one of those boys who didn't get that opportunity, and I have missed it so many times. I don't get to wear the eagle knot on my shirt. I don't get to shake people's hands and say, yes, I'm one of those guys. I never got to be a Boy Scout at all, and it was because somebody didn't give me opportunity. That's what we want to do here. That's what this can do tonight. We ended last year with 106 Boy Scouts right here in Hopkins County. That's almost a 100% increase. I think that's a good thing. I want to keep that going. I want us to be able to reach even more kids than we do now with things like, well, let me tell you a couple of stories of what has happened in this past year. One was a little boy who joined a scout troop, and bless his heart, he comes from people who just don't have much. That's an understatement. His tennis shoes that he wore were given to him by his uncle. They were torn out on the ends and his toes actually stuck out. The kid had holes in his jeans. He had just a couple of shirts and they both had stains on them. He looked like just one of those poor kids because he was one of those poor kids. Well, he still is a poor kid, but you can't really tell it. You see, his scoutmaster and some of the other adults in the troop decided they were going to reach out to this guy. I mean, this is a troop with kids that have parents who are attorneys, parents who are doctors, parents who can do well, and there are some who are like this other boy. But he went off to camp and he had his old torn up shoes and his scoutmaster had asked him about them, and well, he thought they were special because his uncle gave them to him. And some of the guys thought, this is just not right, something's got to change. They'd already helped the boy get his uniform. They'd already helped him do some other things. They helped him make his way to camp. And they went ahead and stopped off by the store and got him a new pair of shoes. The look in that little boy's eyes, I was told, was just something short of miraculous. Oh my goodness, he had a new pair of shoes. He had a clean shirt. His scoutmaster had to have one of those conversations like teenage boys sometimes have to have about, this is a bar of soap and this is a stick of deodorant. Some of those teenage things that boys just have to work their way through. But eventually they made their trip to the store, and the boy got his new shoes. He had a new shirt. He had a new pair of jeans that didn't have a hole in them. And he got a trip to Ryan's Steakhouse. Now, to most of us, Ryan's Steakhouse is nothing special. I mean, it's okay, but it's not like Ruth's Chris or something like that. But this little boy was beaming as he came out the front of Walmart with his brand new shoes on his feet and his old shoes in his hand. And he stopped and he looked at the trash can and he threw his old shoes away. And the Scoutmaster said, "Well, I thought those were your favorite." I didn't really like the color. The Scoutmaster told me with a tear in his eye, he said, "You know, it was like it was a new day for that boy." And I stopped him and I said, "No, it wasn't like it was a new day. It was a new day." You see, when that boy went to the steakhouse that night, he was on top of the world. But he got to go back to troop meetings where he wears a uniform shirt and uniform pants, and he looks just like the doctor's kid. He looks just like the lawyer's kid. He's on a level playing field with those boys. He's no longer the poor kid. He's another one of the guys. There's another boy I want to tell you about. This is a boy, and the story of him is just absolutely amazing. He's a third-generation welfare recipient. It's just in the family's blood. That's just the way they do it. They go around with their hand out, letting us taxpayers pay their way. This boy wanted to do some serious camping. He wanted to do one of the high adventure programs, and he wanted somebody to pay his way. And the Scoutmaster said, "No, you're going to have to work to get there." He told him, "I don't care if you have to rake leaves or mow yards or whatever. Go get yourself a job of some kind and come up with some of the money. I'll help you get the rest, but you're going to have to come up with some." The boy decided it was worth it, so he went out and he raked leaves and he mowed yards, and there was one place where he picked up rocks and moved rocks across a yard for a fella. And a few weeks later, he came into a troop meeting, a big smile on his face, and he's digging dollar bills out and quarters and a couple of $5 bills, and he's just all smiles, and you get a chuckle out of this. He looks at his Scoutmaster and he said, "Man, that was fun." He said, "Was it really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I think when I grow up, I'm going to get a job." Yeah, he's so excited when he grows up, he's going to get a job. And while it's kind of funny, it's so very sad, because the way he's being raised, he doesn't want a job. He doesn't need a job. Someone else will pay his way. Scouting has taught him, though, that a scout is thrifty. He takes care of his own needs and he looks to the needs of others. So he's decided at the age of 14 that when he grows up, he'll get a job and be a regular participating member of society. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a tremendous success. There are other success stories that we see that it's not just the poor kids that we affect, it's every one of them. Recently, I watched as something else happened, and forgive me if I break down because it's so close to me. But there was this big fundraising dinner that the guys were doing. They were doing a chili cook-off, and all the boys were together in this troop doing various projects, and some of the guys were in the kitchen cooking. Well, there's one boy who's a special needs boy. He's 15 years old, and he's got the mind of a 5-year-old. He couldn't help with picking up trash on the side of the road because he might wander out in front of a car and not realize what's going to happen to him. His heart's as good as gold. He just doesn't have the mental faculties to take care of himself. Well, bless his heart, he's there cooking, and there's another boy who's standing there next to him cooking. And Graham's making sure that he doesn't burn himself, and he's staying on top of things, but he's making sure that this boy pushes the limit of what he's been doing in the past and trying new things. And when the chili cook-off was done and everybody had been served, Graham comes up to me. See, it's so close to home. It's one of the boys in my troop. But he comes up to me and he says, "Mr. Ben, you know, I did trash for cash the other weekend trying to get my money for Philmont." Now, in case you don't know what Philmont is, Philmont's the high adventure camp in New Mexico. It's $1,600 to take that trip. And Graham's trying to raise the money himself to go. At the time this happens, Graham only has $1,000, and his deadline is approaching. But he had done trash for cash, and he had his share, which was a check for $71. And he said, "Mr. Ben, I want to give my $71 to help this other little fella so he can go to summer camp." Now, his summer camp fee's only $200, but this other little fella has no way of working and earning and getting his way there. He comes from parents who have nothing. The shock and the surprise was amazing. I'd never seen anything like it. For a 15-year-old boy to say, I'm going to give my money to help another boy. It tore me in half, you can tell. It still does. It's been some time since it happened. I reminded Graham, I said, Graham, you've got to come up with $1,600. And you only have about 1,000 raised. You've got just a few weeks. And he said, yes, Mr. Ben, but this other little fella only has one more week. I want to make sure he goes to camp. So I decided then they're both going. One way or the other, they're both going. You see, that's the kind of thing that we like to see happen in the lives of these guys. In the audience tonight are some Eagle Scouts. In the audience tonight are some guys who came up through scouting. And maybe they didn't make Eagle, but they learned from it. They learned that one of the things you do is you give and you help others. And that's why they're here tonight. They want to give and they want to help others. There's so many wonderful things that scouting does for kids. It's like a diamond, and we can't cover all the facets tonight. But I want you to know how important it is that you help us reach these kids. I hate to say it, but money is that thing that we have to have. It's that fuel for the engine that makes it run, and it's what we need. Don't worry about giving too much. You're not going to give too much. We can always spend it because we always have needs. We have huge needs. Just the other day, right here in Madisonville, I approved a campership for a few boys. It was $415. They needed anything from $25 a piece to $100 a piece for these guys to get to go to summer camp. I don't know if we had the money for it, but I told them they're going anyway because it's important that they get that kind of experience. Here's what we need you to do tonight. We need you to ask yourself, how much can I give to support the scouting program? Our council will spend about $200 per boy making the program happen this year. We'd like to spend more, but that's all that we can. We have a $1.2 million budget. If you think about it, at $200 a head, that's a pretty good price for all the impact that scouting makes in those kids' lives. If you could support one scout, that would be great. If you can do more than that, that'd be even better. I'm sure there's someone here tonight with a big heart, a deep pocket, and a burning desire to write a check for $1,000. Hey, maybe there's two, maybe there's three. Ask yourself, what can I do to help other kids? There was a fellow one time told me, you know, it's not a gift if it doesn't hurt, and it's not a gift if it doesn't make you feel good. So ask yourself, is this going to hurt a little bit? Is this really going to make me feel good? I'm telling you, it makes you feel so good when you know the difference that it makes in the life of a boy. Think about it and help us with what you can. If you're not in a position to write us a check for $200, that's okay. You can give us whatever you can give us, that's fine. If you'd like to, instead of write a check, maybe pay for it with your Christmas bonus, you can put on the form, you know, I'll pay it at Christmas time or something like that, or you can do it in a monthly payment or quarterly or what have you. In front of you on the table are some cards. There may be a white card that your table host gave you that's already pre-printed with your name and address, how much you gave last year, that sort of thing. You can just sign that, write the dollar amount, and hand it back to your table host. If you have a check, you may want to take one of the paper clips and attach it so that we make sure that we get it credited. If not, if you're here, this is the first time, on the table in front of you are some brochures like this. Feel free to take it and read it. Take it home with you if you want to. The part we want is this last page in the back. You can tear it off. If you would, again, put your name, address, and a daytime phone number on here. Email if you'd like to get email from us from time to time. And then check up here how much it is you'd like to give. If you'd like to give monthly, there's a place you can mark that will bill it out monthly. Quarterly, you can do it in December with your Christmas bonus, however it is you want to. We can send you a bill now, or you can pay by check, cash, whatever. Again, if you would, name, address, phone number. It's real important because sometimes we need to call and check and make sure we get something correct. And again, thank you. God bless you. God bless the Boy Scouts of America.